So as the next chapter begins, the sun is setting and the brand on Casca's chest is calling more demonic spirits towards her. What's intriguing about this particular instance is that at first we get a close-up image of eyes opening up, watching the creatures. Then there's a shot of Guts and Casca's demon child in the grass in front of them. The way these panels are laid out, it could easily be confused that the eyes are belonging to the demon child. And maybe it was done that way purposely to persuade the reader into thinking this. But we're going to meet the creature whose eyes these are very soon. Before then, the demon child is somehow able to ward away the dark spirits. It then gives a look back to its mother as she walks away unknowingly of what it just did, but sensing that it's nearby. So if there were any question about it before with the demon child giving Guts a premonition of Casca being in danger, it is 100% confirmed here that the child is trying to keep its mother safe. We don't really know what kind of intelligence it has, but it seems to have a primal need of being around its mother and making sure its mother is okay. But every time it's appeared to Guts, it's haunted him. There could be two reasons for this, I think. One is Guts' seeing the demon child might mostly just be Guts' PTSD creating images of it in his mind, reminding him of the horrible act Griffith did to corrupt his child fetus. Its mere existence is just a painful memory for Guts. But it could also be because back when the child was, heavy quotation marks, born, Guts wanted to kill it right away. Casca kept him from doing so, going right to nurture it as if it were a regular baby. So maybe the demon child has a memory of this, and how Casca wanted to keep it alive, and because of this, the child is determined to protect Casca as well, and not give so much of a fuck to Guts, who would soon have the child killed. The only positive interaction the child had with Guts was to warn him about Casca's future, but all the times Guts was fighting and getting his ass handed to him by apostles and knightly demons, the child never showed up to protect him, as it did here with Casca. We then cut back to the Tower of Conviction, once again seeing these eyes symbolically looming over and watching. It's very reminiscent of The Great Gatsby, particularly in this image, which is funny because the meaning of the eyes in that book actually apply here a little bit. And if you don't know, in that story there's an old decaying billboard that still stands that has eyes painted on it. The eyes are equated to the eyes of God, seeing everything around and happening in the town. And as this arc and the tower are connected to religion and God, the idea that there are eyes staring down at it and judging hold the meaning that the God that they worship and follow may not be the one that's actually watching. That there is something there that's always been watching. A set of eyes that's seen all of the corruption, lies, and greed, the torture and control, and they're eyes that have always been watching, seeing the truth behind what people present as reasons why they do what they do. Eyes piercing deeply into the truth of the meaninglessness of what the Holy See really is, and wanting justice against them. Farnese is in the midst of this unjust ruling religion, seeing the horrors it has to offer firsthand. Here she is remembering the mother who just wanted her baby to be saved, and who has now been sent to the torture room. It's a confliction within her, combined with the previous confliction she felt upon meeting Guts and seeing true demonic forces. She's caught at a massive imbalance of everything she knew, with no one to confide in. It all stirs in her head. Jerome sits not far from her, talking to another soldier, and throws shade at Farnese, thinking that she's sucking up to Mozgus, and just wants to look like a goody-goody. He's not entirely wrong here. Soon after, Farnese and Serpico walk through the tower together. They come across a few of Mozgus's torturers, seen for the first time without their masks. Small and deformed, but human. They actually remind me a bit of the Torturer from the Golden Age arc. Anyone else see this? They are then greeted by another torturer, and this one wearing a crow mask, designed after the famous medieval mask that doctors would wear when visiting sick patients with the plague to protect themselves. This man, upon removing his mask, looks normal enough, but has a rare skin condition where he can't be in the sun. He states that him and the others were all outcast and shunned by the people because of their looks, diseases, and deformities. People were repulsed and bullied them to the point of exile. Mozgus found each one of them and led them to believe that God has a purpose for them all. And that purpose led them here, to use the fact that they are outcasts and feared to instill and perpetuate that fear. It's a sick way of making one feel acceptance, but only upon profiting on the prejudice people already have for them. But in the mind of someone like Mozgus, he truly believes he is righteous and doing the right thing by recruiting them all. The torturer leads them to a holy room where Mozgus is doing a praying ritual. He is slamming his head face first into the ground. And we've seen instances of self-mutilation to display strong faith, but this is the first time we've seen one quite this ridiculous and painful looking. And if we needed a reason why Mozgus' face looks so square and flat other than just a standout design for a manga character, this is it. The torturer calls it prostration, which by definitions calls for one to be stretched out on the floor and completely weak and submissive. Basically, literally laying yourself out before God and choosing to be weak in its presence. Mozgus is stated to do this 1,000 times per day and hasn't missed a day in 10 years. Mozgus stands and shows the wounds on his legs from kneeling and collapsing to the ground so many times. The injuries are so bad he can't even run if he needed to. But Mozgus just states that he holds the wounds dear to him as evidence of his faith. He also makes a very interesting comment that once upon a time, a sage was imprisoned in this tower by King Geyserik. Now, if we remember, King Geyserik was this legendary ruler that brought all nations together almost 1,000 years ago, and there was peace for some time. He was also stated to wear a skull mask in battle, so ever since learning that fact, we have believed that Geyserik was who the Skull Knight was before he was Skull Knight. And I still mostly hold on to that theory. But then Mozgus goes on to say that the sage imprisoned was proclaiming the sins of the king in the midst of every possible torture until an angel was made to descend. And we know that in Berserk, angel can essentially mean God hand. So, was King Geyserik torturing someone who knew too much about him, and did that someone get a hold of a Bailet and become a God hand? Could this someone, who was said to be tortured, be the God hand member Void? This is a leading theory, and Void clearly looks like he was tortured big time. And because of how Griffith looks going into Femto, we know that the transformation into God hand is inclusive of what you look like at the time of ascending. Could this sage be what destroyed Geyserik's kingdom? Did he sacrifice the United Nations of the people for some kind of vengeance? If so, would that explain why Skull Knight is an enemy of the God Hand? It could definitely work as a theory because, okay, a new God Hand member is made every 216 years. Multiply 216 by 5 and you get just over 1,000, which is when Geyserik's kingdom was said to have existed. Maybe whatever sage was being tortured was the very first God Hand member, and maybe it was Void. Skull Knight did attack him first when he entered their dimension to save Guts and Casca. So maybe Skull Knight fights against the God Hand not because he used to be one, as I once theorized, but maybe he feels responsible for beginning the God Hand to begin with by being part of what created the very first member. That's a lot of speculation done in just one sentence from Mozgus, I know, but this is an analysis video, and damn it, when I get information on Skull Knight or the God Hand, I'm gonna analyze that shit. But anyway, back to Farnese. She decides to ask Mozgus if he feels what they're doing is right, if what they are doing is only merely spreading fear among the people. Farnese is opening herself up here, looking for any answers she can get. And Mozgus, that creepy motherfucker, gives her the vaguest, creepiest answer you could imagine. He basically says, don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Don't seek retribution. Just continue forward knowing everything that they do is for God, and they must be devout to faith. Basically glossing over the entire thing, throwing morality out the window, and covering his eyes and ears and going, la 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 la, I'm Mozgus. What a piece of filthy human garbage. His mind is as dense as his flat face. There is no getting through to this man. He is so engraved into faith in the Holy See that he is brutalizing his body, sentencing people to torture, and relishing the fact that it's all either for God or a test by God. He's got a cop-out answer for everything. And poor Farnese, who's just trying to understand the conflicting feelings inside her, can't get a reasonable, intelligent answer to save her life. Back with the refugees, Nina is still keeping an eye on Casca, and a boy named Joachim, I don't really know how to pronounce his name, is it Joachim? I'm not sure, but I'm going with that for now, comes up to her, nervously trying to ask her to have sex. She is a prostitute, and it's stated that they have had sex before, but since she doesn't want to because of her condition, which again we are assuming is syphilis or some other STD, she tells him to meet her at the riverside at midnight and then takes off. That night, he does meet up with her. And I'm assuming they're probably both in their mid-teens here, and there's some kind of romantic history between them, which probably correlates to just having sex a few times. But hey, that's enough, right? Nina asks him if he loves her, and Joachim replies that he does, so she takes his hand and leads him somewhere where she says God is not there, the edge of the world. And meanwhile in the distance, Luca sees her take off. Nina takes Joachim into a cave, and deep inside that cave, a massive festival-like event is going on. And once again, I can't show you much on YouTube given the graphic nature, and I do mean graphic. What is happening in this cave is basically dozens upon dozens of people basking in sin. They are naked people having sex everywhere, and we're talking all kinds, in every opening, every gender, every combination you can think of. Yeah. People are partying, playing music, dancing, embracing it all. One man sits wearing the mask of a goat, and several women all around him are pleasuring him and each other. Honestly, this place looks like a lot of fun. Is that just me? Nina takes Joachim down, surrounded by people, all having sex with each other, and they start to strip him of his clothes. There's also clear evidence of drugs and hallucinations being involved, as Joachim imagines people basically melting into one another. Joachim and Nina start having sex, and it's a trippy psychedelic experience. I can't show you any of it, but just take my word for it. What I can show you, though, is that in the image of the friar in the cave, the silhouette of the God Hand member Slan dances with them. I think this is a very similar concept as when we saw Conrad briefly made out of rats. The God Hand members, in particular situations, making their image come to life in the real world, if only just for an instant. Luca reaches to the cave and watches the madness happening down below. She realizes the pot that they are cooking has been drugged, and everyone taking part in this strange hallucination-fueled orgy is feeling it. Nina takes Joachim up to the man in the goat mask, and okay, I'm sorry, but to be a member of whatever this is, Joachim has to denounce God and kiss this guy's member, which he envisions as a snake. I'm sure there's some symbolism here of the snake and sin and Adam and Eve or something. But like, we just had a horse dick not too long ago, and now we have a snake dick. Joachim then has to take a drink of the concoction that they made, but he spits out a finger, and no longer thinks that this is a hallucination, and starts to freak out at the idea of human body parts being in the drink. It's not explicitly stated whether or not this is true or not, or a hallucination, but whatever the case, he freaks out and tries to run, but Nina calls him out as he's escaping, and a group of people push him off a cliff. And as he falls, Nina looks straight up like a psychopath. Where I had immediate sympathy for her at first, now, and as Berserk does very well, I'm shifting my opinion of her entirely. Seeing her at the edge of this cliff, Luca comes to her. Nina tries to get her to stay away, throwing a rock at her. Nina is so incredibly scared and insecure about her entire existence, and that she may have screwed up by forgoing somebody who actually cared about her. Now Luca, who cares about her as well, she's trying to force away. And Luca, as a mother would do scolding a child, grabs Nina and literally spanks her to calm her down. She then embraces her in a hug, and how Luca has the tolerance for this bitch who just basically let her boyfriend fall off a cliff to his presumable death, I don't understand. All I know is that Luca has more compassion than I ever would. Luca plans to take Nina back, but they then notice something. A group of the naked people all surround the bandaged-up Casca. She'd followed them as well. They mention that they were told that she has syphilis and to stay away, but one man rips off her bandages from her face anyway. They see she looks normal, so they continue to tear at her bandages. This pawing at her gives Casca a brief flashback of the eclipse, and she screams. And with that scream, as if calling them forth, demonic spirits begin to invade, drawn to the brand. They start to possess the people there, and then become ravenous, just as the dogs and horses that Guts fought not long ago. Luca watches all this happen and has to wonder if Casca made this happen. Then, as the possessed men start towards Casca, her demon child appears once more and wards the spirits out of their bodies before disappearing again. The good news is Casca is safe. The bad news is these people all now view Casca as a witch, and as proclaimed deniers of God, they all bow before her. And meanwhile, at the bottom of the cave on some rocks, Joachim is still alive, and the eyes are watching him. Thanks a lot for watching this video, guys. I really do appreciate it. Please give this a like, a thumbs up, comment, share it, all that fun stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next Berserk video.